1943.
Prescott going end zone. It's caught for the touchdown. Dalton Schultz.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
5 o'clock hour. John Machota, theathletic.com, covering the Cowboys and OTAs, and it's just great that the fact that they're going on. And John, how much did you miss this last year?
I missed it a lot just because it gives me something to do. You know, when your whole life is basically turned into just covering the Dallas Cowboys, you know, you look forward to these types of little glimpses, even though, you know, it's not real practice. It's a lot of like walkthrough stuff and just kind of getting tempo down and things like that. But anytime you have a major injury to a key player like that, and it's the first time you get to see them, it's pretty big.
Who were some of the guys that kind of surprised you and stuck out to you in the first day of OTAs?
Well, for one, I mean, I will say Dak Prescott, just because I guess the best way to describe it would be, you know, I mean, all eyes were on him, at least for the, you know, first 20, 30 minutes, because the first time we got to see him do anything. And I'll just say this, I don't think, if you didn't know he had suffered any type of leg injury, you wouldn't have known it from watching him. I mean, it wasn't like he was favoring his right leg. It wasn't like there was any limping. It wasn't like they were like just keeping him kind of stationary or anything. No, he was moving around. He was throwing on the run, throwing from the pocket. Like, the only thing that I think that they want to keep him away from is like an accidental like guy falling and rolling into his ankle. You know, if they were doing full team drills. So he wasn't in team drills because of that. You don't just want to, on an accident, a guy trips, falls back into him like an offensive lineman. And, you know, you just don't want to put any extra wear and tear on that ankle until it absolutely needs to happen, which is going to be, you know, once training camp starts. And so he was definitely one. And, you know, everything looked pretty good there. Another guy I would say, and again, it's because of the injury, is DeMonte KZ coming over from the Falcons. I just playing that safety position, you know, coming off an Achilles tear last October. You just really don't know if that guy's even going to really be out there until training camp. And not only was he out there, but I mean, he was working with the ones and was moving around pretty well. So that's obviously a great sign because he's just playing a position that obviously there isn't a lot of depth there. And it's been a, you know, huge need position for the Cowboys for a long time. So if everything stays on track with him and he doesn't suffer any setbacks with that Achilles, then, you know, he's a guy that should be their starting free safety. So I would say, you know, he kind of stood out. That would probably be the biggest one just because of the injured guys. Like that's the main thing that I was looking for, just kind of how would they be mixing and matching and things like that. You know, there were several guys that didn't participate, like DeMarcus Lawrence and Zach Martin, Ezekiel Elliott, just, you know, guys that they're trying to bring along slowly, whether they're dealing with a nagging injury or just give them an off day. So I would say the KZ and Dak are the top two for me.
So, obviously, John, Jalen Smith's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. The fan base, at least, has, you know, expectations for him. Yeah, I know you got a chance to talk to him about the kind of revamped linebacker group. What were his thoughts on the new faces, new names that are a part of that linebacking core?
Well, I mean, he said he was all for it, and that, you know, Micah Parsons is like a little brother for him, and he knows that there's going to be competition, and there's the NFL, and obviously they lose Sean Lee, but I find it hard to believe that, you know, he was jumping up and down and cheering on draft night when the Cowboys ended up taking Parsons at 12. I mean, that's just not a great sign if you're a linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys that they're using their first-round pick, especially when you're a young linebacker that just got a new contract a couple years ago. So, you know, I mean, things could work out fine, and Jalen Smith and Micah Parsons could end up being the Cowboys' two starting linebackers from now and through the next 5-6 years. Who knows? But coming off of the way the linebackers for the Cowboys have played the last 2 years, I don't think anybody in that room should just be confident that they got a job locked up and that they're going to be here for the next 5 or 6 years. You know, I mean, there's competition in there now. And then the fact that Keanu Neal, I mean, Keanu Neal he was a safety at Florida. He was a safety the last 5 years with the Falcons. He's not a safety with the Cowboys. I mean, he's listed as a safety on their depth chart. But, you know, watching all of the OTA session yesterday, he was weak side linebacker the entire time. He was working with the linebackers, talking to him after. He said he had weighed about 217 while he was playing safety. He's going to get up to about a little over 222, 225, somewhere in that range. He's a linebacker now, so you add him into the mix, and then you obviously there's Jabril Cox they took in the 4th round. I think he's a guy that could get on the field, and then you mix in with Leighton Vander Esch. There's a lot of competition there. So Jalen said all the right things. I don't know if necessarily he feels that way behind the scenes. There's a lot of competition there.
Speaking of him, he's a lightning rod, obviously polarizing at times, but. So he changes to number 9. And my question is not about him going, he wore 54. Chuck Howley and Randy White were pretty good. But what is it about Tony Romo's number 9 that is so sacred? And when did he walk on water during his Cowboys career? Because I must have forgotten that.
Oh, I think it was the Super Bowl that they won. No. I don't know. I think it's, it is an interesting thing that there's just always been a love for Tony Romo with Cowboys fans, and it's obviously carried over until now with him in his broadcast career. And they're just, certain guys more than others become, beloved by the fan base. And the other thing that helps Tony, I believe, is that although, there were ups and downs and he had some really good years and yeah, they didn't have the postseason success, but, you put up big numbers and things like that. I think there's a lot of fans that put his shortcomings kind of on Jerry Jones doesn't know what he's doing, and they kind of blame Jerry, and Jerry even feeds into it, multiple times. Jerry has said, I'm sure he's told you guys that, one of his biggest regrets is not getting the Super Bowl with Romo, just not putting a better team around him and things like that. So he's always been beloved by the Cowboys fan base, and he probably always will be. And so that's part of it. And then the other thing is that the player that's moving into that number, I think that, Jalen Smith, it's no secret. If you go on Twitter, it's pretty clear how fans feel about him. They're not a fan of him, doing the swiping celebration after a tackle that gains 6-7 yards, or maybe even it's a tackle at the line of scrimmage, but the team's down by 4 touchdowns. They're not, it just seems like there's a lack of awareness there at times that, fans really don't appreciate. And I mean, Cowboys fans are pretty diehard. They watch a lot of the Cowboys games, and this isn't like this is a one-off thing. They've seen it for several years now. And then so the fact that this is going to be the guy that then wants to take it, I think that bothers some fans. I don't know why. It's up to him. My only take on all of it was just that, if that ESPN report is correct, that it's almost $500,000 he's going to have to pay for all the back jerseys and T-shirts and such with the number 54 on it. I don't understand. I don't know that that's a great investment for him, but it's his decision. He can do what he wants. I don't know. I'm definitely not young, but I guess from a younger perspective, to be honest with you, with the visor and then the single digit number 9, I kind of thought he looked kind of like a badass yesterday at practice with it. It's kind of a cool number. It's what he wore at Notre Dame. That's where he played his best ball. So, I don't see an issue with it.
Look, if he's going to pay $500,000, and look, it may not be a great business decision, but if he wants to wear number 9 with the Cowboys, this might be his last shot to do that. There's no guarantee he's on the team next year where he could have done it for free.
Well, he can do it with his next team. What are you saying, Paul? He's not going to be in the league. He can wear 9 with whatever team he is with next.
No, I'm just saying
that's probably part of it. You're probably right. That's probably part of it. It's like, I better take advantage of this now.
If he wants a 9 Smith Cowboys jersey, now is the time. I mean, there's no guarantee that the number 9 he gets for the next team, it's the next team's of the Cowboys. So he probably, is trying to cash in on that a little bit. The other thing, I want to go back to Romo for a second, the way he's kind of romanticized. To me, I think a fair comparison would be the way that Dale Murphy is revered in Atlanta, and that he was the best Braves player on the teams that never went to the playoffs, but he's still, again, he's not a Hall of Famer, but he's going to get free beer for life in the city of Atlanta. Tony Romo's kind of there, and maybe a little bit above, but kind of there for the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's a fair comparison. I don't know. I've covered most of Romo's career, and I just, there's always been, I don't know, he's kind of, in a way, to me, a lot like Dak, where he's, unless, Dak wins a Super Bowl, he's going to be a lightning rod type player for even within his own fan base, and the fact that there's people that are going to say that he's not good enough, and they're going to point to the negatives, and then he's going to have the diehard fans that tell the other side that you're idiots, you don't know anything about football. He does all these things positive, and it's just kind of ironic that those two guys went back to back and followed each other on this team playing, one of the most, if not the most biggest spotlight positions in all of sports being the Cowboys quarterback. But it is interesting that Romo, the fans are still like that. Forget the numbers thing, just how often people will talk about anytime that an old, player has some success, about how Tony Romo could come back and play, even though he hasn't, picked up a football in years. And it's just, I think romanticizing, I think that was the right word that you used. I think that fits it perfectly. I just, fans are going to do, and like what they like. And it is kind of interesting because, if he was the quarterback for the Detroit Lions, because I've always compared Tony to Matthew Stafford in a way, I can understand it because that's about as good as it gets. But when you're the quarterback for the Cowboys, I've just always viewed it as you got to win Super Bowls to be remembered at that top of the level.
Well, yeah, because the standard has been set. You're exactly right. It is all about the rings. And that doesn't mean Meredith's not beloved or Craig Morton had a good run and Romo, whatever. But, yeah, when you talk about Aikman and Staubach and what they do, and then Dak knows that too, right? If Dak is good but never really great, then he's got to face that wrath a little bit.
Yeah, no question, especially now with the contract, too, on top of that. There's while it's great to be Dak Prescott, when you see that Forbes article come out that he's, one of the top 5 highest paid athletes in the world in this past year, that's great for you. And just with what he does off the field, I think he's going to do a lot of good with a lot of that money, just the way he invested in his charity work. But that number is just attached to him. And being the highest paid Cowboy of all time, even if he didn't play quarterback, he was going to have the spotlight on him. And then so now, coming back from this injury, it's going to be, it's like the spotlight's already on you because you're the Cowboys quarterback, whether you're good or not. But then when you become the highest paid player in franchise history, second highest paid player in the league behind Patrick Mahomes, it takes things, to another level. And I would say the expectations for Dak are on the same level as they were for Romo, if not probably higher.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Good to see football being practiced, right? It's just practice, but it's OTAs, and I know it's just what it is, the Underwear Olympics, as Paul, you mentioned, kind of like the Combine, but it's at least a team together. And it was great to see Dak out there and going through some of what they could do. It was great to see Joe Burrow bouncing back from a pretty bad injury, being able to do what he was able to do as well, and happy for all of them. It's just back to normal in so many ways. Not all the way, but very close. Soccer, by the way, Baylor soccer added Georgetown.